The idea of my partner intentionally turning their energy away from me to turn it to someone else. All of that, like it's peak erotic for me. Like that is right up there with any of my other like high level kinks. It's what I turn to over and over again. I don't think that works in relationships where there isn't a level of safety. But what I've noticed is also the level of safety only has to be commensurate to the relationship container, right? So like if I'm with a new connection and we haven't really built very much, we just haven't built very much, it can still be erotic, but it doesn't have the same kind of like soul level, like this is touching my deepest attachment wounds. This is like fingering your attachment wound. Like, right? Like, whoa, that is serious. Welcome to Playing with Fire, the podcast for people who are ready to custom build their love.
We're talking about non-monogamy, however you design it, as an individuation opportunity.
Want to leave the default and make your life spectacularly you? You're in the right place.
Okay, yeah.
Marie, we're recording.
Yay! It's just like I was waiting for a thing that says, we're recording now.
Right? I know. It's Zoom. Zoom has broken us into that idea. But no, we're good. We're recording. We can do whatever we want now.
Yay! Oh, hello, Joli. It's so good to see
Marie.
you.
It's always good to see you. It's been too long. Life is busy.
It's been so busy, so wild. It's like a whirlwind.
Yeah, in good ways, but still.
Yes, I miss you.
And I know you're doing exciting stuff.
Yeah, I'm back with my research hat for the first time in several years, really, since I wrote my book. And I did additional interviews for my book, which was probably in 2023. So I'm super excited to be now like double clicking on a very small part of my research that I did and, in those previous years about the erotic side of compersion.
Yummy.
And how the turn on of jealousy can intersect wow, with the turn on of compersion and how. So as part of this new research project, you were the first person that came to mind. I was like, I need to talk to Joli. She has a lot to say about this, I'm sure.
I do. I mean, it was part of my doctoral research as well, the erotic element of jealousy. It's also a big part of my life. I've been speaking on this topic for a while because it's something that I think, though, people who feel erotic charge around jealousy often need some permission to allow themselves to feel that juice, to feel that energy. So we need examples. So I've been pretty transparent, I guess we could say. Yeah. Erotically transparent here. And also, in my study, my original study, I found about 30% of my research participants experienced some form of erotic charge attached to jealousy. And the people who felt that and didn't feel shame around it seemed much happier with their jealousy overall than people who either felt shame around that or who didn't feel it. So yeah, I think it's well worth exploring.
Oh, beautiful. And actually that idea of like having shame or not around jealousy kind of throws us back into our comfort struggle conversation.
Right.
Where so much of the struggle, like when folks really want compersion, but they are not experiencing it, some of that struggle is the shame.
Absolutely. Yeah. The shame of jealousy, the shame of the confusion. And then when jealousy comes up and it brings a whole bunch of emotions, if one of those emotions is eros, if it is that turn on, if it's lustful, or if it's aggressive and lustful, or if it's humiliation and kink lustful, like all of these can touch on shame, depending on what other work you've been doing in the rest of your, getting to know yourself and your erotic life. Yeah. And as soon as shame is turned on, now we have a hindrance, right? We've got brakes. And who wants brakes when we're trying to feel better about something?
Right. I love that concept of brakes. It's like the brakes and accelerators, and that sexual model of sexual, I mean,
Yeah,
the model of sexual
sexual model, yeah.
desire.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I feel like I want to ask you about both, like, what have you seen in your research participants, in your practice, kind of like in other people, in terms of how people experience the intersection of
Mhm.
jealousy and erotic turn on? And I would love also to ask you about your own experience around that. So, which one do you want to start with?
Well, I mean, I think starting with my personal experience makes sense because that's actually how my research started. I mean, I researched jealousy because I was I was caught by it. I was caught in the struggle of dealing with jealousy in a non-monogamous context where I had I'd been exposed to a lot of ideas that said that jealousy was inherently bad, that it was
Hmm.
uninvolved, that it was problematic inherently, and that I needed to get rid of it, right? Like that's and you know, when I first came out as non-monogamous, it was 2009, and I think that the people who exposed me to that idea meant well. They meant like let's get rid of this emotion that can cause a lot of challenge in non-monogamy, and let's
Hmm.
just replace it with compersion. So I worked really hard to try to do that for a while,
Hmm.
and it didn't work.
Hmm.
And the erotic side of jealousy is what finally broke through for me.
Ooh.
So that's why I stayed in this. I mean, you've asked me. I think the first question you asked me when we met was like, "Why would you study something so dark, so challenging?" Like, why? Like, because
Hmm.
you know how long we have to spend with
Hmm.
our topic matter. And yeah, it was this. It was exactly what you're asking about that kept me compelled and feeling like it
Yeah.
was, it also had this, it has a tone to it that is kind of like bittersweet, right? Like, oh,
Hmm.
it's, you know, it's not all bad. There's also this incredible electric energy. So my personal experiences, yeah, I need it. I need erotic jealousy in my life personally.
Ooh, amazing to break through kind of the darkness and the heaviness of jealousy and how it can manifest otherwise if there's not that erotic charge around it.
Yeah, and you know, for me also to really reclaim it. So that
Hmm.
temptation early for me was that when I felt jealousy was to go in one of two directions. Either I would go in a shame spiral
Hmm.
down into the dregs of my soul and feel like a terrible person and definitely a bad poly person just for
Hmm.
feeling jealous. Um,
Hmm.
and I was really, really clear. I knew that I was feeling jealousy at the beginning, but then we just decided to like outlaw the word in
Mm.
in our little polycule, which did not help. So then
Oh.
I felt even more shame. So and the other direction was that I would masturbate. I would
Mm.
masturbate, and I noticed that my charge around jealousy was great. I loved it. I like, and that was not problematic. So I had these like divergent paths in front of me, and the struggle to like choose one that felt good,
Mhm.
but meant that I needed to keep jealousy close to me,
Mhm.
and the other that felt terrible, like horrible, because it was attached to shame, judgment, ostracization, not feeling included in my larger polyamory community. Like I felt very othered by
Mhm.
acknowledging jealousy.
Mhm.
Um, and so there were so many negatives, but that aligned with like what I had been told was like the ideal polyamorous value set. So
Mhm.
I was in a double bind, and it was excruciating for a couple of years.
Wow. Wow. So when you discovered you could masturbate and kind of keep jealousy close,
Yeah.
were you fantasizing about your partner with others?
Yeah, I mean, so the thing is I had always had fantasies of my partner, any partner I'd ever had with other people. Like that was part of my fantasy life. But
Mhm.
in the monogamous container, I never thought of it as a jealousy fantasy.
Mhm.
I thought of it, you know, if you look at like Justin Lemmeller's work around like what are the common fantasies that Americans are reporting, the
Mhm.
most common one is sex with multiple people, right?
Yeah.
So I kind of just lumped it under that. Like having a fantasy of my first husband with someone else, well, I was also in the fantasy. Even if I wasn't actually imagining myself as a third in that fantasy, like it was my fantasy, therefore I was part of it.
Yeah.
So for me, that just felt like, yeah, sure. It never even occurred to me that it was about jealousy. It
Ooh.
was when I shifted out of a monogamous paradigm into a non-monogamous paradigm, and I realized, oh, okay, so my partner literally does have other partners,
Mm-hmm.
and I know about it. And sometimes I'm even present, like in the same household while they're having sex.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very, very real. And I really struggled at the beginning with whether I was allowed to find that erotic, whether that was okay, because now it wasn't just about my fantasy life and something I was creating in my imaginal world, but about something that was real and was happening for my other partners. And it was a real mind fuck for me. I really didn't know. And I had one of my partners in particular was very withdrawn and really wouldn't have wanted me, including her in my fantasy life. Like, that's not the kind of relationship. We had a life partnership, but not a sexual relationship. And
Mm-hmm.
so it was so confusing, Marie, that honestly, it took years. I mean, there's a reason I studied jealousy.
Wow.
It took years to comb this out because I was so tangled up in what's okay, what's not okay,
Mm-hmm.
what am I doing when I'm bringing that erotic energy and combining it, like allowing jealousy to fuel that? Like, what am I doing? And also to get out of the story that I was somehow um like fostering a neurotic behavior, like fostering
Oh,
something bad, something that's like psychologically bad for me. Because
yeah.
if we lump jealousy under this, like, this is bad and you shouldn't have it,
Mm-hmm.
then what happens if I'm pulling it in close? Like, how do I make sense of that? Even though it was providing me immense relief from the
Mm.
symptoms of jealousy.
Uh-huh. That's amazing. Yeah, it's a little bit like if you were to think about eroticizing violence and other BDSM
Right.
contexts and wonder, like, well, is this healthy or am I creating a dynamic that glamorizes violence or, glamorizes something that should not be glamorized, that actually should be
Yeah,
dissociated from ideally or something like that?
absolutely. I mean, now I hold it alongside all of the other kink play that I do.
Mm-hmm.
And playing with jealousy now feels like it feels like the tamest thing that I do in the kink realm.
Wow.
Because my play range now is so different than it was 16, 17 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So 2 decades ago, I would have put this on the, like, yes, that's big, that feels really erotic and very kinky, and
Mm-hmm.
also right at that edge of, like, yeah, am I glamorizing something negative? Am I actually, like, somehow hurting myself by doing that? And
Mm-hmm.
now I'm like, oh baby, you, you really are not. You really are not. But I didn't know. Like, I mean, I wasn't a sex educator in this way then. Like, I hadn't received the kind of training at that point. For me, I still thought kink had to be physical, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's how I thought of it primarily, was physical.
Yeah.
It was years of work to figure out, like, how the psychological aspects were the primary aspects of at least my experience of kink.
Right, right. So how did you calm it out and, like detangle, like, oh, jealousy is a bad thing that I should not really be glamorizing or getting off on, to concluding that, like, yes, it's okay, it's cathartic, I want to keep doing that.
Yeah. One of the earliest things that happened was several months in to living full time in a triad. I noticed that I was uncomfortable with the fact that we'd sort of banned the word jealousy
Mhm,
because it was there. It was
mhm,
present. And so I started playing with it. It was probably about a year, maybe 14 months in, that I started playing with it erotically again and, like, letting myself play with it. And it was, hmm, it was not something that I worked through in the way that I would now, right? I played with it, I toyed with it, I journaled about it. But unfortunately, every therapist that I brought it to didn't know what to do with it either. Like some of them were, I saw 3 different therapists where I talked about this in some contexts. And uh, they were like permission granting as far as like, well, emotions are emotions and they're just information. But that was sort of where it stopped.
Yeah.
And so for me, it became like starting to like write about what I was fantasizing about. And then I wouldn't keep those. I don't have most of those writings. I burned them. So I would
Oh,
write them and then I would burn them
wow.
because I didn't feel comfortable having that. Like, because also when we're talking about jealousy, if we're talking about real people in our lives and
Mm-hmm.
we're eroticizing that jealousy, there's also the sort of lived fear of like, yeah, but they're real people. And how I interact with them, even in my imagination, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
putting it on page, it was nerve wracking. I didn't feel like that was necessarily the safest thing to do. And I think that was also it was a bit of an indicator about how much shame and worry I felt about admitting how hot jealousy was and how easy it was to play with. Um, so that went on for probably a couple of years of like just being more playful with it.
Mm-hmm.
And around the fourth year that around the fourth year that I was playing with it, I finally like brought it into partnership. And
Ah,
that's where I think it started to solidify into, oh, I'm not crazy. I'm not crazy. I'm not hurting myself. This is just fun, kinky play. And I'd also started doing a lot more impact play and other types of kink play. So I could
mhm.
also contextualize it differently. And that's when it shifted. But the
Mm.
first, yeah, years were just
Yes.
a lot of permission granting to myself to feel where's this edge. And then, and then watching to see, does it damage my relationships with anyone?
Mhm.
Is it actually causing more harm than good? And the net result for me was no, it was helpful. It was taking something out of the shadow area where I literally couldn't see it, like that's so deep dark back in there, and
Mhm.
bringing it out into my imagination and looking at it. It
Uh-huh.
I, for me, that's always better. It's never a loss to have brought something out into the light.
Right, 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 right. It's like you could rescue jealousy from the shadows through this erotic channel that
Yeah,
allowed you to kind of give yourself permission to look at it with that kind of turn on to fuel or to maybe like dismantle fear. I mean, I know that I think like erotic turn on can be almost like a drug where like it kind of, like tempers down your fear neurology or like it
yeah,
just makes you feel more brave, more bold, more like
yeah. I mean,
yes,
we'll do things that we wouldn't do otherwise while we're aroused. Right?
right,
Like, that's
right,
just the nature of the beast. It's why we have to have our safer sex conversations sober and
mm,
not turned on.
yeah,
Because once you're turned on, you're already less risk averse. So
mm,
if you're looking to keep your risks in check, obviously, right?
mhm,
So it was it was really helpful and it did work on the fear. Like the fear that I was working with wasn't it wasn't really about my partner being with someone else. It
mhm,
was about trying to make sense from a monogamous imagination, right? Like so for years I'm trying to figure out like what is love then if it's not exclusivity? What is
mhm,
love if it doesn't follow this pattern? What is sexual lustful connection? What is all of that? So
mhm,
as I was doing that, the fear for me was also that there was a lot of comparison in early days, like so much comparison. Like,
mhm,
what do I have that they don't have? What do they bring that I don't bring? Was
mhm,
just a sort of undercurrent that I thought just I couldn't, from that version of myself, imagine not feeling competitive and comparative all the time.
uh-huh.
but bringing it into the erotic, I mean, that's true of everyone I've ever had sex with as well. Like they bring something I'm not bringing. We're showing up with differences. Otherwise, it would be kind of odd, honestly.
Mhm.
So there was a certain it wasn't so much about lessening the fear as just making it worthwhile to experience this difference, to
Mhm.
let myself feel how, oh no, I can't be them. I can't bring what they bring. I can
Mhm.
only be me.
Mhm.
But to also see the other, especially my so-called competitor,
Mhm.
in an
Mhm.
erotic light. Um, yeah, I mean, I feel the comparison sort of just takes on a different tone then. Kind of like having, so I used to run a lot. And
Mhm.
sometimes I would run and we'd be competing against each other.
Mhm.
And then other times we'd be running, but we'd be literally running as a team.
Yeah.
And it very much felt like that sort of shift. Like, oh, especially when my partners have partners who like we can at least have there's like space for that erotic compersion to be there. Like we can ah,
Mhm.
I feel total like they're all in. Like we all understand that we are erotic beings in each other's imagination. And that's
Mhm.
not always true. So I
Mm.
think that's where that gets a little tricky for me. Like, oh,
Yeah.
I don't always want like if somebody doesn't if I hate someone, I
Uh-huh.
don't want to like if I'm feeling antipathy and violence toward them, I don't really want to play with that energy.
Uh-huh.
It's not with their energy directly anyways. And
Right.
that gets edgy for me. That gets tricky cuz
Mm.
that doesn't mean I don't necessarily feel jealous either.
Right, right. So then, you have to deal with the jealousy in a different way.
Yeah, at least I mean for me there's something about like I want to observe a sort of goodwill, like while I can hold someone in enough goodwill to be like, yeah, I can play with this because they're not my enemy.
Mhm.
They're a person who I may be feeling competitive with, but that doesn't make them my enemy versus someone who I'm like, oh, I am the villain in their story and they
Mhm.
are the villain in mine.
Ooh.
That's tougher. That's tougher. And that actually, like, I think that goes to like another whole level of kink play, right?
Ooh.
Where now I'm playing with like violence. I'm playing with my own inner, like
Mhm.
the aggression that I feel, not
Mm.
more so than jealousy.
Right, right. That makes sense. And if it's someone who might not be like a total enemy, but they're not really wanting to engage in that, like being erotic people in your common stories, like, do you feel like it's problematic to be then fantasizing about them in your imaginal realm?
Yeah, so I think it's a really interesting depth psychological question, right? Like what are the ethics of using someone's selfhood imaginally? And I don't know that anybody's even having this conversation in the world, but I've been wondering about it now for the last 15 years and where I've the way that I'm holding it for myself, right? I believe that we can only have our own ethical stance, right? Like I have to make my own ethics brick by
Mhm.
brick.
Mhm.
And if I cannot hold someone in goodwill, then I don't intentionally like invite them into like I don't craft fantasy around them. And if they don't want to be,
Mhm.
then I don't.
Mhm.
However, that doesn't mean they won't show up,
Yeah.
right? It's like asking yourself not to dream about someone. The
Yeah.
imagination does what the imagination does. So I
Mhm.
also don't hold myself responsible for like, yeah, you're going to be like, especially as you near orgasm, the imagination does what it does.
Mhm.
So, but I think there's something different about like cultivating essentially like internal fan fiction
Mm.
where I'm like writing stories inside about the how this person interacts with my partner and all of that. I think that's different for me anyways
Yeah.
than when I'm just like, whoo, spontaneously that lit me up.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
so what I do though is if somebody's not in that realm of like, yeah, they feel good for me to build that,
Mhm.
I just use other, right? Like
Mhm.
they don't have to be a specific person, right? And generally speaking, too, those are people who I don't have a relationship with, so they can't really build anything anyways. So
Mhm.
instead they become more of like a role. There's like a placeholder person. Like
Mhm.
the metamour role is filled by will now be played by insert whatever celebrity what you want. Like, it doesn't matter.
Uh-huh.
And I can still play with that same energy.
Yeah.
So that's how I've made sense of it. It has not been easy though, because I do feel some responsibility
Mm.
for how I interact with other people's energy that way.
Right. Right. I understand the feeling of like, ooh, like, is it okay to fantasize about this person? Like, just energetically, or yeah, it's an
And I mean,
interesting question for sure.
yeah, like I think it is okay. And then sometimes for me,
Mhm.
it always comes back to, and how do I feel about it afterward? Because I want to feel good about it after. So if it
Right.
feels good for you afterward, great.
Mhm.
But like I noticed that sometimes I didn't, and that really hasn't happened that often. There's just a handful of times I'm like, oh, that's just not a good person for me to cultivate that energy around.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm. Yeah.
Luckily, there are 8 billion other people, so it's fine.
Yes. So, what is hot in jealousy or about jealousy? If we
Mm,
like go deeper into that, like,
yeah.
why is it erotic?
I mean, so I'll speak personally. For me, I have several like clear lines of erotic tension around disposability, around being like it's like the inversion of abandonment. Like, oh, abandonment is hot. Like being
Mhm.
disposed of is hot. There's like it's all the standard issue, like being treated badly, being hit, right? Like if we put it into the proper container, can be
Mhm.
hot. So in the context of a very safe relationship
Mhm.
where trust has been built and I feel really good,
Mhm.
yeah, the idea of being, used and thrown away, the idea of being chosen, having someone else chosen over, the idea of my partner intentionally turning their energy away from me to turn it to someone else.
Mhm.
All of that, like it's uh, yeah, peak erotic for me. Like that is right up there with any of my other like high level kinks. It's what I turn to over and over again.
Mhm.
I don't think that works in relationships where there isn't a level of safety.
Mhm.
But what I've noticed is also the level of safety only has to be commensurate to the relationship container. Right. So like if I'm with a new connection and we haven't really built very much, we just haven't built very much, it can still be erotic, but it doesn't have the same kind of like soul level, like this is touching my deepest attachment wounds, this is like fingering your attachment wound. Like, right, like, whoa, that is serious. And
Oh.
then with a newer relationship, it's more like, oh, that's kind of hot. Like the fact that I can't have you and I have you and I can't, like, just the tension. It feels more like day to day, like, oh, they're not here right now. So I feel the longing and the pull, the energy, the tension between us. But
Mhm.
it's not touching my attachment wounds because I don't have an attachment based relationship with them
Mhm.
yet.
Mhm. Mhm.
So yeah, it depends on the context, really, like how deeply this can go and how much I think it is about like me versus just the idea of jealousy. Like my particular wounds, my particular, like the way this touches me, it
Yeah.
could be completely different from the way it touches someone else, right? Because,
Right. Right. Like, it's a more embodied experience
yeah, yeah.
than just
Versus just like the
physical.
cultural idea
Mhm.
of like jealousy and therefore, okay, somebody else being chosen over you, your partner turning away, like the just not feeling chosen,
Yeah.
which I mean, even in a newer relationship can still have like a fun edge. Like I've been at
Mhm.
group parties
Mhm.
where like there's a lot of people playing and all of a sudden you find yourself in a moment where you're like, nobody's playing with me.
Mhm.
Like what do you do in that moment? Like do you spiral out
Mhm.
and like this has been such a different move for me, but in that situation, if I choose like, oh, I can choose to fantasize about the fact that I have not been chosen right now.
Uh-huh.
Like,
Uh-huh.
am I willing to stand in this room and find that hot?
Oh,
Which
wow.
is, it's like it's searing heat. Like it even now, like remembering that, like I feel the heat
Uh-huh.
all up the back of my neck and like the heat of like that is so fucked up. It's so, like I feel it right now, like and really hot. Right? It's like to stand in a room full of people and allow yourself to be the not chosen one. So, for
Yeah.
anybody who hasn't picked up on it in the last half hour of me talking, clearly Joli has a humiliation kink, right?
Mhm.
Like it's just right there. So for somebody who doesn't have that, that move might not work, but
Yeah.
it works for me.
And why do you think that your psyche is designed in such a way that your attachment wounds are hot, like are erotic spaces? And I know you're not the only one. Of course, there's a lot of people for whom that, like you said, fingering your attachment wound is hot. It
Yeah.
creates sexual desire and tension and like, oh my God, so much energy. Like, why do you think our psyches are designed to do that?
I mean, we could just take the good old-fashioned Freudian approach and be like, "This hurts a lot. Therefore, I'm gonna just, I'll marry it right up with something intensely pleasurable." It
Hmm.
I don't see any reason not to believe that. I mean, Freud got a lot of shit wrong, but, like,
Huh?
that just makes logical sense to me that that's one of the things as a protective mechanism. Like, sure, if you
Hmm.
were abandoned, if you were neglected, if you felt humiliated as a child, that early on, I tied that to erotic energy, that I
Hmm.
found a way to make it pleasurable.
Yeah.
How brilliant for my little 5-year-old self to
Mm.
like find that way. And I do actually have some evidence of that. Like there was some of that that was even intentional. Like I can remember masturbating as a child to humiliation, but I didn't know the word humiliation then. I just felt bad. I didn't like how I felt. I didn't feel good. I'd been yelled at. Something had happened. I'd gotten in trouble somehow. I
Mhm.
didn't know what that was until, I'm in my 40s and like, oh,
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 wow.
that's what that was. So I think some of it was like a predisposition. I also think, I mean, I've heard that our kinks are inherited. I've read the research that our kinks are inherited. And my parents, they are both deceased, but they both shared we had an easy conversation around sex in my adulthood. They were easy to talk to about that,
Mhm, mhm,
and I have no doubt that I inherited the predisposition. No doubt at all that my parents both also carried this particular way of being in the world.
oh gosh.
So I
Wow.
don't think it's universal, but it makes sense to me that also I don't know, like we just move through the world in certain ways and nobody taught me to do it. I just
Yeah.
did it because I remember doing this like at some of my earliest memories, 4 years old, 5
Uh-huh.
years old, are
Yes.
of finding ways to bring my body pleasure when I felt like I had been, especially for me, verbally, like condemned, yelled at. So,
Mhm,
yeah.
mhm, mhm. Wow. And just kind of a side note, that's so interesting, the idea of kinks being inherited. Would you imagine that they're inherited like biologically or behaviorally?
There the evidence that I have seen suggests that likely there is a biological element.
Mhm,
I think there's a lot more to find out about this. And
mhm,
then of course then we're also like we're raised in an environment that's going to give us clues about how to make sense of the world, right?
mhm,
And so I know that my parents both used masturbation and sex as a self-soothing mechanism. Like,
mhm,
I know they did, and they could not have used that language, but,
mhm,
for where I am now, I look back and I'm like, "Oh, sure." And then I did, as soon as I started having sex at 16, like, "Oh, I see that pathway of like, oh,
mhm,
that's a way for me to self-soothe, to feel better about myself, to find, a moment of joy in a." I was a very depressive, young person.
mhm,
So
mhm.
both. Like it just makes sense to me that it would be a combination. Um, and of course, the idea that we have kinks at all, I mean, I don't feel at this point in my life, I don't feel any shame for having them. They
Mhm,
exist. They're there. I don't particularly care whether I was born with them, whether I developed them in childhood, or whether I cultivated them later. If
mhm,
they work for me, I'm not hurting anyone else, and
mhm,
I can figure out how to allow myself to grow with them so I'm not stuck and stagnant, then for
mhm.
me, good, great. Like, let's go for it. Let's play with that.
Right.
Um,
Right. Yeah. And let's talk about the transformative
yeah,
nature, the transformative power of kink, and particularly, like when jealousy functions as a kink.
yeah.
Like, what do you think happens, to us? Like, what transforms? Like, what moves?
Well, I think part of it, for me at least, my experience has been that the shifting from this is happening to me
Hmm.
into I am participating in this,
Yeah.
which isn't the same thing as doing a power flip where this is happening to me now I'm doing this too. It's not an inversion of the power, but just to move into a participatory role with my jealousy feels completely different.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's when things are happening in my life that I do not feel I have any input, influence, or impact over, I feel powerless, I feel helpless, and that form of jealousy tends to feel, instead of erotic, it feels like a bell jar being put over the flame. Like it's just it shuts me
Mm-hmm.
down.
Yeah.
When I decide to stand up and actually participate, I'm alive again.
Hmm.
So I don't think it has to be more complicated than deciding to engage in this.
Yeah.
I also think that recognizing that I am choosing, and that was a huge, okay. If I go back to the very, very beginning again, of my experience in non monogamy, I was very, very clear that I was choosing to
Mm-hmm.
relate to someone who already had another full time partner, as well as crushes and whatever else. But like I knew, and I was seeing it right up close. I was living with them. I was day to day in this.
Mm-hmm.
So I wish we had kept the word jealousy in our vocabulary, because what I was doing was giving myself permission to be right up close to something
Mm-hmm.
that the monogamous paradigm would tell me run away or make that stop.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
as soon as I then grabbed onto it, I was like, oh, I'm not going to run away. I'm not going to, and I'm not going to make it stop. I'm here. I
Mm-hmm.
chose this, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
choosing it every day. So if I recognize my choice in being in this dynamic that's also creating jealousy,
Mm-hmm.
well, okay. Like,
Yeah.
I, great. Like that's a great starting point, right? Like,
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's not, yeah, it's like, I love the word participatory jealousy, so that you kind of reclaim agency and your sense of safety inside of yourself in
right,
relationship to this ostracized emotion and phenomenon. So you relate to it like almost like as an adult rather than as a child, maybe.
right. Well, and the jealousy triangle, like every part of that, every tip of the triangle has a role. So to
Hmm.
act as though the jealous one doesn't have a role, or to act as though the others, like the beloved or the interrupter, they all have a role. They're all really important. But I see so many people take on jealousy as if it's happening in a vacuum. It's
Hmm.
not. It's happening in this really dynamic shape where we're passing energy around, even if the other people don't know it.
Hmm. Hmm.
There's a lot of energy to be drawn from. So that's the other reason why I enjoy playing with it, and why I enjoy working with jealousy in that way more than in. I have many clients who prefer to work with jealousy in a let's like sort of walk back out of it. We'll get ourselves away from the jealousy, and
Hmm.
we're gonna leave that sort of track and move into compersion.
Hmm.
But I find a more direct route by allowing myself to not. don't have to not feel jealousy. I think it's why when we talked about, comper struggle and about being jealous and compersive at the same time, I'm like, yeah, that's that's like my most native state
Mm.
is those two emotions at the same time. I
Uh-huh.
just don't feel their antithesis at all,
Yeah.
even though they feel very oppositional, right? But two
Mhm.
things in opposition are just in tension. They're not
Mhm.
they're not mutually exclusive. So
Right.
I just find like it's so direct to be like, I am participating in this. I'm going to actively own my place in it.
Mhm.
And also, it doesn't have to go away for me to also be happy. Right? Like, so what if I can, and maybe that also speaks to the fact that I was raised with a lot of value around being more than one thing at a time.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like, not because I was verbally told that, but I always felt at odds with who I was supposed to be. So I had to
Mhm.
have like an acceptance of multiplicity in
Yeah.
order to exist.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, can I just accept that the jealousy itself is it's like having a power bank in my pocket.
Wow.
Like I always have access to that. Which,
Mhm.
by the way, super, super awesome. I've gone through stretches of time with my anchor partner where we're struggling in our sex life, but
Mhm.
I can always turn to jealousy as a way for me to find some like, oh, hang on. It's like having a power bank. Like, wait, I can just use that. So
Wow.
we're struggling. Yeah, but I can get really charged up and then I can carry both of us through
Oh,
an erotic experience.
wow.
Um, we've spoken on our podcast recently about we had like an 18-month stretch of like real challenge
Mhm.
and my using like leveraging the energy from jealousy was very advantageous because I
Mm.
didn't want to disconnect completely, but we were struggling to find our groove.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Yeah. And I mean also it does make it easier for me. I find it's easier for me to hold the tension of my metamour just being an other person.
Mhm.
Like it keeps them more in the real. They're more a part of my day-to-day imagination.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that feels calming to me. I don't like when metamours are like blips that appear out of nowhere. And like it feels like, oh wait, I forgot. I forgot how to have you in my imagination. So I like having the sense of them as like ongoing actors in our lives.
Like keeping them close.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, and your research talks about this, like having positive regard
Mhm.
for my metamours. And that has been hands down the thing that makes it easiest to
Mhm.
feel compersion.
Mhm.
And so I have to also like I have to include them in my imagination, not just my erotic imagination, but my imagination as a whole.
Mhm.
Otherwise, I mean, I don't have direct relationships with everybody who I
Mm.
am in a metamour connection with. So
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
yeah, like I have to do that. So jealousy is just one of the ways that I want to hold them in my imagination.
Right, right. That's amazing. I would love to double click on that connection or that juxtaposition between jealousy and compersion and how you experience those, in proximity. Because I know you've said, and I really agree, that you can't transform jealousy into compersion. Like it's not the same stuff.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
how do you see those being related in the erotic realm?
Yeah. Well, I think I heard you were going to use the word alchemize
Yeah.
around this talk, right?
Mhm,
So, like
mhm,
when I use that word, I'm using it very specifically in the sense that Jung would use that word. So,
mm,
to alchemize something is to bring it into the vessel and to heat it and to go through the phases of negredo, albedo, citronitas, rubedo, like to go through a process with it.
mm,
Um, but the base material of jealousy is generally like fear and anger and sadness and shame and loss and anticipatory grief and I don't have a direct way to go from point A to point B if point B is compersion being joy and happiness
mm,
and light and vitality. I don't have that. but I can imagine like an alchemical journey. And this is, I think, what I experienced. So when I use jealousy erotically,
Yeah.
I'm applying heat, right? At that point, I am the alembic, I am the alchemical vessel, and I apply heat
Uh-huh.
through passion, through sexual tension, through like I'm building that. But in order to alchemize it, I actually have to let it burn me to the ground, right? The Negredo phase of alchemy is total and utter burning to ash. It
Mm-hmm.
is not pretty, it is not pleasant, right? So I to me the experience of jealousy to compersion is an experience of allowing like a real descent all the way to the depths of the underworld, and then to allow that to like marinate and to exist, and then to experience a return, but not all at once, not like boom now, oh yay, I've just like a piece of gold doesn't just pop up out of that. And
Mm-hmm.
even an orgasm doesn't give me that like, oh, it's just magically changed.
Yeah.
It's instead more like the dawning realization. And this is why I think like a more classical interpretation, psychological interpretation of alchemy does make sense, because we're talking about the dawning wisdom of like, oh, jealousy also has all this power and it has all this charge. Okay. And
Mm-hmm.
also my metamour in this realm, they're not my enemy. They brought me something.
Yeah.
And even though I don't, maybe the thing they brought me might have felt like destruction, but also it's pleasure, and it's all wrapped together. And
Mm-hmm.
then to allow that to like really to be in that phase long enough,
Mm-hmm.
then I can eventually see how my psyche can make sense of it in a way that my metamour is not my enemy and is yet another way for me to experience myself in the world, right? It's like yet another erotic mirror is through this dastardly portal. Like that is rough. Like that's a long descent. And I also don't think it happens all at once. This isn't like, oh, I'm going to just fantasize about this once and I'll somehow convert this into compersion. For me, it's been a practice of like over and over again deciding to cultivate the sensations of jealousy in my body, and decide that I can in fact not just tolerate them but enjoy them.
Mm-hmm.
And all of that depends on the larger context of my relational life being one that is safe enough to
Mm-hmm.
feel all that heat, to feel all that destruction.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not everybody's experience of relationship, which is why I would never recommend this as the universal medicine for the transition from jealousy to compersion. Because if your relational world is not a safe container, if
Mm-hmm.
you do not feel trust, if you constantly are in a cycle of current betrayal,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you might be able to get some charge out of it, but I question whether you'll actually get all the way to compersion,
Mm-hmm.
because you're still being harmed, like in a continual sense. So in
Mm-hmm.
that case, I would be looking for other tools to move from jealousy to betrayal, to compersion, because that betrayal is just going to be like such a um um, it's going to be a huge cock block for you. No good, no
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, we have to heal that betrayal
We have
first.
to, yeah, yeah, and I mean, I wish that weren't the case, but I'm sure you see it too. Like,
Mm-hmm.
n- non-monogamy isn't a solution that just stops betrayal from happening.
Mm-mm.
Lots of people are experiencing unhealthy betrayal-based relating while saying they're doing non-monogamy, because they haven't yet figured out how to relate well.
Yeah.
Like putting the label non-monogamy on your relationship doesn't magically make you a good relator.
Yes.
Didn't for me, didn't for my anchor partner, did like
Mm-hmm.
no. So yeah, in the right circumstances though, it's a descent to the underworld
Mm-hmm.
and a return with new knowledge, a new way of being.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, I have found that the experiences build on one another. So my
Mm-hmm.
previous experiences of working with jealousy and transmuting it over a long period of time into compersive feelings for a specific person have left me with a genuine, like, positive outlook on the possibility that I can build compersion with a partner over time.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean it works in every case. I've
Right.
still had times where I'm like, nope, it's just not working. I don't feel the trust. I don't like, something feels off. There's just something blocking it. So
Mm-hmm.
again, like, not like a universal solution, even for me who
Mhm.
likes it so much. I wouldn't
Right.
just apply it every time.
Yeah. 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 Different times call for different measures.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, what happens in the underworld
Mm.
that allows you to then, come back and have more room for compersion? Like, what is that alchemical process when you're there? Like, you've let that jealousy burn you to the ground, to
Yeah.
the
So
ashes.
I think there's a number of things that ways I could talk about it. To some degree, it's the unknown and the unknowable. Like, you experience it to feel it because it's going to be so unique, right? I'm not sure we can totally describe this, um, but one of the things I have felt is a dissolution of the ego structures that
Mm-hmm.
have kept me safe. The ones that say, I am safe because my partner's choosing me in this way,
Mm-hmm.
or I am safe because I have security built through this particular rule-based relationship structure, or whatever, like those things.
Mm-hmm.
If I allow those parts of me
Yeah.
to burn away, that's powerful.
Yeah. It's
And
like
then,
in control.
yeah, allowing myself to not be in control. But I think the number one thing that has happened for me, and I did a really elaborate, like, breakdown of this on Girl Boner Radio for August McLaughlin, where when my partner has witnessed me eroticizing my jealousy
Mm-hmm.
and been solid and steady and present through an entire erotic exchange, and they were willing to witness me mirror and reflect back without backing down about their attraction to the other person, their interest, their desire, and in fact help me, like, build that.
Mm-hmm.
That's been transformative.
Mm-hmm.
But I, but again, not everyone has access to that level of witnessing. So I'm careful to, like,
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
would not necessarily suggest that as the way, because you have to have all these parts, right? Like, to have an
Uh-huh.
erotic witness,
Yeah.
someone who's willing to hold steady in the face of them feeling like they're the one who's doing this to you
Mm,
because they're the one who brought this jealousy into your life, and to have them hold that tension and stay present and not leave.
yeah.
So to play with now feeling unchosen, disposed of, and also right there in the moment, clearly experiencing the presence of being witnessed and having the other there,
Mhm.
that juxtaposition, like, it, it's such a huge cognitive dissonance. So I think at that point we're talking about, like, memory reconsolidation. Like, we're actually changing what it feels like. Oh, my abandonment wound has now been changed because I'm having a new experience, and I am relearning what it is to
Uh-huh.
experience being unchosen. What if being unchosen doesn't mean you're disposed of? Or what if it,
Yeah.
and the way memory reconsolidation works is you have to actually elicit the neural tag
Mhm.
and have a different experience so that you get that dissonance. Like,
Mhm.
the dissonance has to be present.
Mhm.
And it's not easy to hold all of that. But when you do, you come out the other side having actually changed. Like, things are different. And
Yeah.
that's how I feel. 15 years later, I'm like, oh yeah. And I can even point back to, say, maybe a half a dozen really peak experiences where
Mhm.
that happened. And then in between that, lots of times of meaning making, and like, yeah, combing through, like, what did I get from that, and what was, like, trying to understand myself in the intervening times, and then these peak moments of, like, oh, now we're actually rewiring my brain now.
Mm, right. the way you're talking about it reminds me so much of, like the descriptions of, different types of trauma therapy, but
Yeah.
particularly psychedelic assisted therapy, where,
Yeah.
yeah, like the memories of traumatic events can get brought back, but in in an atmosphere of safety, safe witnessing, and pleasure and relaxation, so that the memory can lose its charge and
Right.
its association to like a really bad feeling. So it's really, really transformative. And as you said earlier, kind of this reclamation of more of who you are can then happen in that erotic space. And when you reclaim more of your psyche, then you have more room for everything, right? Not
Right.
just the jealousy or the challenging emotion, but then also maybe like the landscape of your inner world can include more compersion because you're just making more room.
Yeah, exactly. The container is bigger.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Wow. This is amazing. What?
Jealousy is a practice. It's
Ooh.
not for the faint of heart, but I mean, for anyone who's interested in big kink play, though, like anybody who does kink play and who does it for the purposes of healing and transformation will recognize there is just nothing. That's all we've been talking about the whole time. It's
Yeah.
just using jealousy specifically as the implement versus a flogger or a cat of nine tails, right? Like but jealousy being the implement doesn't change the actual trajectory.
Mhm.
And so if somebody were looking to play with this, one of the things I would recommend is really solid kink education from
Mhm.
extremely well practiced teachers, from people who understand that it is not just about playing with a thing or having even just a scene, but about really like what is happening to your whole psyche, what's going on here, and how do we do that relationally so that it is something more than just. I mean, it's fine to play with like let's spank a little. That's one thing, but then like if you're going to do these deep dives, learn how to actually hold and be held. And that takes time. I mean, my anchor partner and I, we both trained in that specifically because we were having these deep experiences that were transformative, but they also felt like playing with electrical voltage that was way outside our pay grade. Like we didn't know what to do with the energy we were unleashing. So we had to learn how do we play with that? How do
Yeah.
we make a container safe enough for that?
Oh my gosh, it's really the true meaning of playing with fire.
Right? Always, every time, all the time.
Ooh, the alchemical fire.
Mhm.
This
Mhm.
yummy line between pain and pleasure.
Absolutely.
Oh,
Marie, this is going to be so much fun. I'm psyched. I can't wait to hear what you come up with. I know you're going to be doing interviews with other people, and I know that you're giving a spark talk, right?
yeah, like an
Or is it
ignite.
Ignite talk? Yeah, like
Yes,
that's perfect. I can't wait to hear how it goes and how it lands with the audience because
totally. It's going to be on January 30th in San Francisco, but it's going to be broad stream or how do you call it?
like
Like,
live streamed.
yes,
Oh,
correct.
yay. Awesome. Oh, that's
I'll let
awesome.
you know, and of course, I'll share the recording. And I'm so excited to share some of that Joli Hamilton wisdom because you've been sharing so much of it. It's gold. Everything you've been sharing feels so potent and
Mhm.
alchemical in itself to just hear about it. So thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for having done all of this work that allows you to then just distill this precious golden wisdom for
Mhm.
everyone to learn from.
Well, thank you. I am so thrilled and so grateful to have your friendship as a colleague and as a dear friend. And it makes it so easy to have a conversation like this where I can just dive in. I mean, Ken and I do this week after week, but it's a rare other person that I can go like, okay, yeah, sure. I'll just let the walls drop and we'll just go there. So thank you. And thank you for giving me this opportunity to do a reverse interview. It's such an unusual thing to get to do. So thank you. This was really fun. And I can't wait to hear. And when the talk comes up, make sure you let me know so I can push it out to everybody because people are they're gonna want to watch. They're gonna want to watch. I can't
Yeah.
wait.
Oh, it's gonna be so fun. Thank you,
Awesome.
Julie, and oh my gosh, thank you to everyone who listened.
Thanks, Marie. You've done the work, the therapy, the reflection, the breakthroughs, and still some things feels unfinished. What if you're not stuck? What if instead you're standing at the threshold of transformation, but you don't yet know the language to describe what you're going through? I'm Dr. Joli Hamilton, Jungian psychologist and guide in the work of individuation. In the Inner Alchemy series, we'll journey through the 4 phases of transformation. Nigredo, the dissolution. Albedo, the awakening. Citrinitas, the embodiment. Rubedo, the radiance. Because you were never meant to fix yourself. You were meant to find yourself. You are the alchemist, and your life is the laboratory.